Hello everybody, and welcome to The Beat, a news and informative talk program brought to you by the Center for Community Media here at Worcester State. I'm RJ Sheedy, and on today's program we'll be taking a look at fascinating classes offered here and around Worcester. Joining us later in the show will be Steve Minichello, who teaches a class on the Beatles at Worcester State. Comedian Jerry Caruso will also be with us. Jerry teaches a stand-up comedy class at Quinsigamond Community College. But for now, we are talking to Gordon Fisher, who teaches a class on swords. Gordon, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thanks for having me.
Now, listen, you teach a class on swords a few nights a week. What qualifies you to teach that class? Where'd you get your interest in swordsmanship from?
Well, I've always had an interest in the Japanese sword. I first started studying karate at the age of 25 back in 1973. Okay.
Really? You look really young.
Do I?
Yeah, you only look like
Thank
40.
Well, basically doing this helps. Keeps you young, keeps you fit.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Keeps you active.
But I come from a military family. My great-grandfather served in the Civil War. My dad was he was in the First World War, the Second World War, and Korea. So
wow, he got all three.
yeah, well, he was in the cavalry in the First World War. He was 39 years old and serving at Pearl Harbor when the Japanese attacked, and then he did 2 tours in Korea. So he was a lifer, career sergeant,
And then you yourself also served in the Navy.
I did. I was in the submarine service. I was a quartermaster. Basically, it's master of the quarterdeck, where the control, the navigation. It's the highest rate or the most important rate on a ship.
Right, now you do a lot of demonstrations a lot of the times. You did bring a bunch of swords with you. Do you mind telling me a little bit about what you brought and showing me how they work?
Sure. Right. This one here is a wakizashi. It means the companion, and the samurai would always have this. And it has various lengths. It depends on the samurai himself, or a lot of them were heirlooms passed down through generations. They go back hundreds of years. The samurai ruled Japan for 700 years, from 1185 until 1878. So it's they had a lot of swords. Excuse me?
Is that real? Like, if you take the cover off, is there something underneath it?
Sure. Yeah. Well, the scabbard itself is just made of wood.
Okay.
Okay. The blade has a single edge. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it's made to cut.
So people can cut limbs off with that, like the samurais?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. That's so cool. How old is that piece?
Oh, this is just an alloy blade. I wasn't going to bring any live blades on television.
All right, that's cool. At least I feel safe now.
I didn't know what the restrictions would be.
Oh, you could have brought in anything you wanted today.
This here is a katana, and this would only be carried out of doors. The samurai always had a blade with him, indoors or whatever.
So this would be brought outside with him.
This would be outside, yes. Just like in your house, you'll probably only have 8-foot ceilings, right? Mm-hmm. Well, if you were standing up and you pulled this, it would run into the ceiling or a door jam.
Yeah, you break a lamp with it.
And wouldn't that be something?
Yeah.
You would want that to happen, okay? And the katana is basically a two-handed sword. The handle is about 10 inches long, okay? The left hand is the strength, the right hand is the guide, okay? And it's like a lever, okay? You want to pull on this and push on this, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Whoosh.
The sound is made by the groove on either side. That's basically, it lessens the weight and also gives more surface, and which makes it stronger. And they're made of different types of steel. You'll have a soft core and then a hardened core. And if you notice, there is a...
I see the squiggly line.
Yeah, that's called a hamon. And what you would do is you would take and put clay over the rest of the sword, okay? And then you would heat the sword up one last time, okay, until it was the color of the moon. And then you would quench it in water. And that's how you get the curve of the blade, because the back side is almost 1/4 of an inch wide, and the edge is basically nothingness. And you would be able to probably cut steel.
You could cut steel with that?
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's
Yeah.
really amazing.
It's basically a duel between the swordsmith and the armorer, the person who made helmets for the samurai.
Is it only the Japanese culture that has like these types of sword artifacts in them?
Well, the Japanese sword is the sharpest blade known to man. It's basically, Excalibur. The word Excalibur means to cut steel. So all of these blades were that type. And you had to be a student of a swordsmith for many years before they allowed you to make your own blades. And basically, in fact, the 1350 was the time where they made the best ones.
1350. Okay, that's really neat. Now we're almost out of time. I know so many people are watching this either in their dorm rooms or on the computers, and they're just fascinated by the weaponry and the history that you have.
Oh, here, let me show you something here.
Okay.
Okay, it's the Japanese sword. Okay, is worn through the belt. In fact, I wore an obi here. Basically, an obi is just a belt. Okay, but to draw the sword, we have an art called iai. Iai-do. Do means the way, but iai is the feeling that you have to be ready at all times. Okay, so which camera am I going at? This one here. Okay, so when you would draw your sword towards your opponent this way here and cut, and then cut through. The first one is a hit, Yukitsuke. Okay, I'll do it from the side here. Like that. And then from here, you would cleanse the blade. And if the person was still alive, you could come forward and stab, but you would normally draw up and see that it was inert, and then step back, and then bring the sword back and place it back into the scabbard.
Awesome. Gordon, thank you so much for being here with us today. It was a pleasure talking to you. We'll be right back with Steve Minichello. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Joining us now on set is Steve Minichello, who teaches a class at Worcester State on the Beatles. Steve, thank you so much for being here. Nice to see you, as always. So you teach a class on the Beatles. What fascinates you about the Beatles?
I think the thing that fascinates me the most is how they changed everything. For instance, if the Beatles were here, the set that we're looking at would be full of color and excitement instead of just the blue.
Instead of just plain blue.
But they changed music. They changed the way music is played. They changed how music was produced, how album covers are created, how rock music is portrayed in movies or on radio. And then huge cultural changes also. The dress, how people dressed, long hair became a new fashion. There was so many different aspects of them. And I think probably the most fantastic thing is they affected the news much like any prime minister or president or pope or any world leader would. Their movements were followed in the 60s just as closely as political leaders were.
And this was unheard of for any musician or group at the time too, right?
The only person that really made that much of an impact was Elvis, but that was a shorter period of time. And the huge difference is that Elvis was a fantastic performer and a groundbreaker, but the fact is he never really played his own music. He played guitar, but he wasn't a virtuoso. We always had session musicians with him. And he never wrote music or created music. Other people wrote songs for them. The Beatles changed all that. They were the singer-songwriters, the original singer-songwriters.
We can break up the Beatles' career in a bunch of different eras. What's your favorite era for the Beatles?
Oh, that will depend on what day of the week it is. I've always been fascinated with the pre-Beatles, before they became popular. What was
When
it
they were
like for
touring
them?
through Hamburg.
Yes, when they were doing small tours in Europe and residencies in Hamburg, Germany, before anyone knew who they were, other than the people that saw them. A time that John Lennon said, if you ever really wanted to see the Beatles, you needed to see us in Hamburg, Germany. Those are the real Beatles. So that's a fascinating time when they had a drummer with them before Ringo Starr called Pete Best. And it was a different type of world for the Beatles. Then it varies. There are times that I get excited by when they broke through in America. There are other times that the period they were in India, or the Sgt. Pepper period, or at the very end, the sad moments of when you saw this incredible band that did so much in only 7 years, a catalog of songs that still sells more than any artist today. Over the last 60 years, 50 years, there's only been one artist who has sold in a decade as much as the Beatles, and that was Eminem in the 1990s.
Eminem.
From 90 to 2000, Eminem sold more than the Beatles, but the Beatles came in second place. From 2000 to 2010, they sold more records than anyone. In the 1980s, they sold more than anyone. 1970s. The issue is that they stopped recording in 1970, and they continue to sell more than any other artist.
Which is an impressive feat, no doubt.
It's a testament, certainly.
Now,
Yeah.
the Beatles moved through Europe, they toured all over there, and then they first came to America with the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yes.
How did that come about for them?
With most things with the Beatles, it was all happenstance. They were very, very fortunate. It's almost like the stars were always aligned for them, and things fell into place properly. Ed Sullivan, the man who was the host of the Ed Sullivan Show, happened to be passing through Heathrow Airport in London, or whatever it was called at that time. And he saw these throngs and throngs of teenagers, tens of thousands of teenagers that were there. And he questioned what's going on. Is the Prime Minister coming through? Is President Johnson coming through? What's going on? And they said it was a rock band called the Beatles. And he had his producers investigate it. And he decided, this is worth a break. They were only popular in Britain. They weren't popular anywhere else. And he booked them in like November of 1963 to come to America for 3 shows. And remarkably, they were paid $6,500 total for those 3 shows.
That doesn't seem like a lot, but then when you think about what that show did for them,
Right.
it's the world.
Yeah, it was short-term gain, but long-term gain, really.
One thing that the Beatles also did, which is kind of sort of in line with the period, but also isn't, is that they were film stars
Yes.
at the time. Now, back in the day when films would have musicians in them, it was just for the music, for something to bring you to the theater.
Yeah.
But again, the Beatles changed this.
They did change it. In the past, a way to sell movies was to put a regular movie, some beach blanket movie of some sort, or even like the Elvis movies. Elvis always played a character in these movies, and they really surrounded the movie around that one person, just so they could have a few hit songs that they could promote in that manner. Mm-hmm. And then the Beatles came along, and they made a real movie about the Beatles. They played themselves, and the movie was called A Hard Day's Night. And it goes down in film history as, according to, depending on who you talk to, one of the top 20 movies ever made. The famous reviewer is Siskel and Ebert. This is on their top 10 list of one of the best movies ever made. And it's in black and white. And it's in black and white. It's not even a color movie.
It's in black and white.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Beatles movie?
I think it would have to be A Hard
It would
Day's
have to
Night.
be A
It's a
Hard Day's
classic
Night.
movie, and there's some wonderful scenes, as well as the music is just remarkable. And the soundtrack of A Hard Day's Night is a remarkable soundtrack. It's perfection, actually. It's pop music perfection. Their music got better, but as far as pop music, pure pop music, it was exquisite, and it showed them at their peak.
Halfway through the Beatles' career, they lost their longtime manager, Brian Epstein. How much do you think his death affected the band and their music?
I think ultimately what happened to the Beatles was going to happen to the Beatles anyways, but it happened quicker. Brian Epstein was the rudder that steered the ship, and he did that for about 5 years. I think it was about 5 years before that he was actually involved with the Beatles. They knew nothing about the business world. They knew nothing about touring, although they had finished touring by the time he had finished. Record contracts, relationships with record companies, he did all of that. So it really stunned them, and they had no rudder anymore. And so they started going, well, rudderless. And as you know, if you ever see a motorboat that doesn't have a rudder on it, it starts going in circles or making S's and things. And that's what they were doing. And it was a question of who was going to take over this band. Was it going to be Paul McCartney? Was it going to be John Lennon, whose band it originally was? It certainly wasn't going to be George Harrison or Ringo Starr. And it turned out that Paul McCartney really took the reins and took off with that.
Now, right after Brian Epstein died, Magical Mystery Tour happened. Was that a flop at the time? Was that a failure for them?
It was an absolute failure. It was actually considered by most to be the first failure that they had. That was probably 1967 or 68, and they had not had a flop, whether it be a record or anything, since 1963. So it was a wake-up call. One of the most amazing points of that is I mentioned about a colorful set and all. One of the reasons that Magical Mystery Tour was going to be spectacular is because it's all very psychedelic. The colors are real rich, and it's vibrant, and it's quick cutting, and there's a lot of fancy hippie kind of psychedelic stuff happening. When it first aired on British television, because it wasn't a movie, it was a TV show, they aired it in black and white nationally. And so as bad as it was, people perceived it as even worse.
Because it was in black and white.
Because it was in black and white, yeah, at that point. If you look at it now, restored color, the song segments are beautiful. The rest of the story, there really isn't a story. And by the way, you could, if you take my course, I can tell you all these things. You didn't mention them.
I didn't mention this yet. Okay, so I have one more question before we talk about the course itself.
That's fine.
Right after Magical Mystery Tour, they recorded 2 more albums. They recorded the Get Back sessions, and they recorded Abbey Road. In your opinion, what did it end for that band? Was it just Their Time Has Came, or that was it?
What caused the ending of it?
What caused the ending?
What do you think caused the ending? I think, like anything, George Harrison had an album that came out right after the Beatles called All Things Must Pass.
The big giant box set.
The three CD or 3 record box set. And I think that was true. All things must pass. Everything ends at some point. Even the Beatles had to end. And it had run its course. They had created fantastic music. They were all married at that point. They had their own separate lives. They weren't hanging together all the time. They wanted to play with other people. They wanted to play music with other people. They wanted to do their own thing. Ringo was interested in acting. George Harrison was interested in more mystical Eastern religion type things. John Lennon was only interested in Yoko Ono at the time. And McCartney probably would have kept it together longer, but he was outvoted at that point.
McCartney was actually the one who publicly said, "We're done."
We're done, yes. Surprisingly, all of them had quit, and no one knew it, starting in 1967. First it was Ringo that quit, then it was Harrison that quit, then it was Lennon that quit, but they were always coaxed to come back into the band. And the public never heard about it. That comes out with history now. We learn about that through history. And yet, when the time came to dissolve the band, it was McCartney that came out and said, "I'm done." And so he got all the publicity for being
And he
the
did
one.
that in a really interesting, very Paul-like way, too, how he quit the band.
Yeah.
Okay, so how can people take your class?
It's offered through the communications department, so it's in the catalog. It's an elective, so it's not a mandated course for the communications department. And what students can expect is a rigorous education on the Beatles. This is not a gut class. This has a lot of reading in it, and the tests reflect that also. But the fact is, the readings are fantastic. I know they're fantastic readings. in the class. The visuals you're going to see are my lecture, certainly, but I have 12 distinctive PowerPoint presentations that are embedded with tons of music, tons of stills explaining as I'm speaking, as well as lots of footage, including one week, which I love the most, where we sit down and actually, as a class, sit and watch the movie A Hard Day's Night that we spoke about before. Popcorn is optional for that class, but it is available if you want it.
Yeah. Now, we're just about ready to wrap things up. One thing that I do know that you were fascinated with was that last semester you had a student in your class that never heard anything by the Beatles before.
Yes, that's right. And her name was Sushi.
Suchi,
and
yeah.
she was a Chinese exchange student. She was here just one semester. She probably knew 2 or 3 Beatles songs, but she just knew the name The Beatles. And it was the most fascinating experience because I would say all the students knew maybe, out of the catalog of 160, 170 songs, maybe knew 12 to 20 songs. And we play, of course, a lot more than just the hits all the time. We play
We go really into the
we
deep
go
cuts
really
too,
in depth
yeah.
into the catalog. And she had heard almost nothing. So I think the whole class experienced hearing things for the very first time, because I would always ask her what she thought of the song after we played parts of it or all of it in class. And my most memorable moment in the class was at the tail end, the Abbey Road album, which of course you're so familiar with. There's a song by George Harrison called Something. And many people have said it's one of the most remarkable love songs ever written, both production-wise, lyrically, and musically. And I remember when the song ended, there was dead silence after I played it. And I looked and I said, Sushi, and she was crying. And she said, it's the most beautiful song I've ever heard. And I know that meant so much to me, and I think the whole class responded the same way.
No, really.
Yeah.
It was an amazing. I personally, I've taken your class. It was an amazing time, and I really encourage everybody out there watching this to please, at least, if not take it, think about taking it. It's going to change your life.
Yeah.
It really will.
I'm not sure it'll change your life, but
It kind of changed mine.
okay.
I don't know.
Thank you very much, RJ.
Thank you for being here with us, Steve. Remember, his class is being offered at Worcester State in the spring. So if you like what you heard, please consider joining the class. It's really, really fun. We'll be right back with Jerry Caruso. Welcome back to the show, everybody. With us now is comedian Jerry Caruso. Jerry, my man.
Good to see you.
It's great to see you. How
Great
are
to see
you?
Good.
I
How you
haven't
doing?
seen you in a while. The last time I saw you was at my 50th show in Milford.
Yeah.
And as always, you killed it.
The telethon. For,
Yep, the telethon for Coleman
yeah, that
and
was really
Best
good.
Buddies.
That was fun.
We work a lot together, and I just have to thank you so much for
Oh,
coming
I
out and
love
talking
it.
to us
I love
here.
it. Coming to the big city of Worcester, I'm thrilled.
Oh, it's great being here in the city. Now listen, you teach a stand-up comedy class at Quincy. What brought you to comedy? How did you start?
I started back in 1993. There was just like a bunch of co-workers. I worked at Digital Equipment Corporation. They said, Jerry, you're real funny. We want you to roast this lady. I go, who is she? They said, we don't know, just roast her. I go, how am I going to roast her? I don't know anything about it. Well, she's a manager. She doesn't like to talk to people. She's not the nicest person. I go, so anything else? Favorites, likes, dislikes? Nah, just go with it. And I just went into doing impressions. And people looking at me like, what are you doing impressions for? I go, are they funny? They go, yeah. They go, what about her? I go, I got nothing to say about her. I don't even know her. You know?
Yeah.
And then they all liked it. And they said, you know what? If you ever go to Nick's Comedy Club, we'll follow you and we'll support you. So I made schedule a show, like an open mic. And then they hired a school bus. It was like, I get there, and we're over. The guy goes, what's that school bus? I said, oh, that's a Partridge family. I go, those are my fans. He goes, fans? They file out of the bus, 14 people, half of them are drunk, whatever, Because what else are you going to do in a school bus if you're middle-aged?
Oh, yeah. That sounds like a
So,
good time.
so they went and they supported me, and from that point on, I just didn't stop. I just liked doing it, and here I am, 23. I'm on my 24th year now. So
Wow, that's amazing.
it's cool.
What do you get a kick out of more, doing the small benefit shows or opening for the bigger acts like Lisa Lampanelli and Larry the Cable Guy?
Lisa Lampanelli and Anthony Clark and Larry the Cable Guy, great people. It was great to do that. The energy was really good. But the nice part about doing the benefits is 9 chances out of 10 I'm headlining those benefits. The other 9 chances out of 10 I'm working with some really close friends who, good friends. Larry Lee Lewis, Dennis Worth, Bill Slemmer, God, Thomas Mitchell, Greg Bogus, the names of Dave Decker, names go on and on. But they're all my good friends, and I know that we have a good time. And they're all low maintenance. None of them, like, we all get along well. We're all joking around. We're all loose. And everything's going to work out fine. And the nice thing about the benefits, it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel good here because you're doing something good to help people and you're making them laugh. And everybody goes, what about hecklers? You worry about hecklers? I go, anyone who heckles you as a benefit looks awful.
Yeah.
Because the benefits for someone who needs money, someone who's sick.
Do you go back at those hecklers in those instances?
Oh, I'll go back at them, but I'll try to be nice because I know it's a reputation of the show, and I'll say like, come on, calm down. This is for so and so, and then people start yelling at them. So
the audience is doing
the audience is heckling them. It's like, you wanted to walk into this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll try to keep them quiet, but the audience gets involved, and they're all behind me like, yeah, go get them. Or, it's like, let's all just get along,
Exactly.
But it's fun. The most rewarding part about it is just helping somebody and just making them laugh at the same time. It's just greatest feeling. It's such a high. Doing a show.
No, I do.
You do. By the way, he does a great job at the show
you.
and his other show.
Thank you.
He's talented at what he does, and you do a great job. And you're animated. You're into it. You put everything, and that's what you do when you do comedy. So you try to do the same thing. You emulate an entertainer because you are an entertainer as well as I am to a point. And you just work hard and you bond with whoever's watching you and the audience, and they get into it.
Yeah.
And they believe in you because you're believing in what you do. I believe in what I do. And then they're like, oh my God, I got to watch this, or I got to sit and watch. I can't wait to laugh.
Yeah.
So it's really,
It's an amazing feeling. Literally, like I get off my show and I'm in like this euphoric high.
Yeah.
For like 2 days afterwards.
Oh, absolutely.
So
with good reason.
Like we said at the beginning of this interview, you teach a class at Quinsigamond Community College and a number of other colleges in the area on stand-up comedy.
Yep.
Is that something that can really be taught to somebody?
Well, you know what it is? I think the best way to summarize it was I get interviewed by a local radio station in Gardner, where I teach at Mount Wachusett Community College. And they said to me, we got to have you on the show. You're teaching stand-up comedy across the street.
Yeah.
That's what the station was. And they said, we got to ask you this magical question. What is it about comedy? What is it that makes someone funny? What is it? What tools do these people need to take your class? How do they prep for it? What do you look for immediately? And I looked them straight face. I go, $80. That's it. There's no tool, just pay. See, because you can't teach comedy, but you could teach them the theory of it, like how to deliver jokes. Like delivery is so important. Like if you tell a joke like, I fell down, and blah, blah, they're all monotone, where you say, oh my God, I was walking down the street, and all of a sudden, bang, I fell down, oh my God, I was hurt, no, I cried to my mother, so you try to accentuate it more. You try to put emotion into it, and that's what I try to teach. I also try to teach, if you work clean, you'll get a lot more work. If you try not to pick on people, like, don't do politics, don't do religion, don't do race, unless it's yours. You can make fun of your nationality, I can't make fun of different nationalities because it's not me. People go, you're not Chinese, or you're not African American. True, because I can't. I can relate to stories, so I try to teach that in class. I try to teach them that it's all about believing in yourself and get rid of the fear of public speaking, because once you hit that microphone, you're right there. You can't freeze.
You gotta do it, yeah.
So, and then I teach them, I bring them on a show, and I bring them on my cable show too. So I give them 2 shots to teach them how to work in front of a camera. Not that it's going to happen that soon, and to work in front of a live audience, even though they're bringing their own friends and family. So they're all pumped up about it. And I tell each one of them, I make them nervous before the show starts. I go, it's not about you making your friends and family laugh. It's his, hers, and his. Because if you make your friends and family gonna laugh at you, say like, "Oh, you're very funny." Not that they're
gotta get the other people to laugh.
But the other ones you're gonna make laugh. So you're cognizant of it. So they're on a stage thinking, like, "Geez, I hope I make everybody laugh." I said, "Well, don't make it like it's first and foremost, but that's your challenge. Your challenge, like if me and you had to show our friends and family that they're gonna love us.
Yeah.
But it's whoever else is there. The son, oh, I've never seen RJ and Jerry before. Oh, I gotta see them. And they enjoy it. They enjoy the banter. They enjoy the comedy. They enjoy the conversation. They get laughs, and that's what it is. And I tell them that's what's so important about it. But it's fun.
Yeah. Now, if people are watching right now and they're fascinated by you and they really want to learn how to do comedy, where can they sign up for your class? Because I know it's offered at Quincy Sigma. Where else are you teaching?
Yeah, Quincy Sigma Community College, Mount Wachusett Community College in Gardner, and Greenfield Community College in Greenfield. And a lot of them, they happen in the fall. Some do the spring. Some try to do, like Quincy Sigma's always, let's do it again. It's like, no, just do one. So you make people want it.
Yeah.
And it's usually like 5 or 6 classes. And outside of that, they get to come to my cable show, and they come to get on a show I'll have at a local place that's nearby, and it works out perfect. So it's almost like they get 8 classes. So
That's
it's not
awesome.
too bad. Just go to their sites, and a lot of them are continuing education.
Yeah.
Because it's a non-credit course. You're not going to get anything out of it, you know. They can give me apples, polish apples, bring me beer. I don't care. You know,
Okay.
say, you did a great job. Oh my God, no. But it's like, you know, they all have fun, and I try to stay connected with them. I tell every one of them, this class is over doesn't mean I'm done with you. You can call me, you can email me, you can send me jokes, say, what do you think of this? How can I structure it? Or if you want to get on shows or ask for a recommendation, I'd be glad to do it, because it's like, I never had that chance. That's why I did this class. 'Cause
Yeah.
when I took it, nobody was there to help me. I said, why can't I help other people? You know, I don't care if they're funnier than me. I'll help them get over the edge.
Yeah.
You know, so it's cool.
That's so cool. Jerry, thank you so much for taking the
You're
drive
welcome,
out here.
brother.
I'm so happy to have you
Appreciate
here.
it. Happy to be on.
Thank you, Jerry Cruiser, for joining us, and thank you at home for watching our program today. If you've learned anything here today, it's that there's always great classes being offered here at Worcester State and around town. So take advantage of what you have. For The Beat, I'm RJ Sheedy. So long, everybody.